Egads! I have just discovered that Bigfoot is real. Furthermore, the actual Noah's Ark has been uncovered. Moreover, the pyramids of Egypt were in fact constructed by ancient aliens. I have researched all of these topics on a marvelous piece of technology known as the U-Tube. And look at this, a sidebar with recommended videos. The clockwork inside this tube must know that I am a truth seeker because now it says I should watch this expose about lizard people who have taken over the government. Gadzooks, if it wasn't published on this tube of knowledge, I would not believe it. Don't children have great imaginations? Yeah, they can conjure up the most fantastic creatures like leprechauns or elves or talking animals. And it's all part of a balanced breakfast. If you balance it with actual food and not just this sugary puff cardboard they're calling cereal. But unlike what's in those boxes, myths and fairy tales are actually good for kids. Studies show that a rich fantasy life improves a child's development. But as adults, our job is to keep children safe in the real world. That's why we don't fix a broken bridge with fairy dust. And that's why elevators have fail-safe brakes instead of a sign that says, in case of emergency, think happy thoughts. So, you might be surprised to learn that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the author of the most famous detective of all time, got pranked by a couple of kids. Meet Francis and Elise. Hi, Francis. Hi, Elise. They're two English cousins who like to play make-believe in the forest. One day, they borrowed their dad's camera and came back a few hours later claiming to have seen real fairies. And they had proof. Not one, but two very real photos. A few years later, they took 3 more, even more convincing pictures. Experts all over the world were stumped. Arthur Conan Doyle himself got involved, and he sent the negatives off to several photo laboratories. None of them found any evidence of tampering. Now, what can we deduce about these marvelous photographs? There are no marks of negatives being cut. No bleach or paint or charcoal present, and no bleed-through caused by double exposure. Now, consider what we know about the girls. They had neither the time nor the equipment for a combination printing process. It would have taken weeks in a studio for even the most skilled photographer to produce such an image using composition. Fakery was impossible, and once you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, no matter how improbable, must be the truth. Of course, this was back in the day before Photoshop. You couldn't just copy and paste one image onto another. I don't know how that got in there. That's just me at the beach. So back then, the only way to combine images in camera was a trick called double exposure, where you'd take 2 pictures on the same negative. I should explain. You see, kids, back in ancient times, your camera was not the same thing as your phone, and instead of running on batteries, cameras ran on something called film canisters, which were solar-powered but didn't automatically upload to social media. Got it? Okay, with that cleared up, here's how to take a double exposure picture. First, you need a film camera. There's one. Next, point the camera at something dark, like the night sky, and take your first picture. How about here at this old barn? Classic. Now, don't wind the film forward. Finally, just get yourself a black background and a bright object to put in front of it, like this tuna can we happen to have lying around. Wonder how that got there. Some black thread completes the illusion. Just tie this to anything you have handy and hold it in front of the screen. All right, work with me now, Can. Work with me. Give me spooky. Give me mysterious. All right, this is the money shot. And voila, we have new evidence that baffles the experts. And what can we deduce about this marvelous photograph? Is this proof of alien spacecraft? It's a tuna can. I knew that! Even today, with high-res imaging technology literally in everyone's pocket, people still go nuts over a blurry black and white image of an ordinary object taken out of context. Do you remember this sensational news headline?
The U.S. Navy just made a stunning admission.
Navy admits UFOs are real.
Mysterious flying objects.
These present a very real national security risk.
Legitimate images of UFOs shot by a Navy Super Hornet pilot.
And seemingly defying the laws of physics.
No method of propulsion.
The phenomena had unusual flight characteristics.
No technology like this exists that we know of.
This is otherworldly, this technology.
Oh, the truth is out there, and now we're learning more about the truth.
Number one, this is real. And number two, this is unidentified aerial phenomena.
That's right. This shocking footage reveals that we humans are not alone. Here among us are little gray dots. I mean, no human technology could possibly move like that, and what else could there be? Aside from, well, that. Yeah, that moves exactly like it.
Oh my gosh, dude. Wow, look at it fly.
Funny thing, did you notice those pilots are laughing and joking on their radios? That's not how I would react to an alien invasion, but exactly how I'd act if me and my buddies got bored one day and decided to play with $1 million infrared tracking camera to target log a passing bird. Good use of taxpayer dollars, guys. So, yeah, technically, this is an unidentified object because the military never bothered to identify it as a hawk or a vulture or a duck or a goose. It might remain a mystery forever. But I'm going to go with goose. Why? Well, personal preference. You see, when UFO people look at this picture, it reminds them of their favorite sci-fi shows on TV, like The X-Files. So they think, alien spaceship. But when I look at it, for some reason, I'm reminded of Fabio. Remember Fabio?
I can't believe it's not butter. I can't believe it's not butter. I can't believe it's not butter.
Oh, Fabio! He never could believe it wasn't butter. He was like the exact opposite of Agent Fox Mulder from The X-Files. Short, skinny, dark hair, wants to believe. Tall, ripped, blonde, can't believe. See, they're actually opposites. But one thing they do have in common is that they both had a close encounter with a flying object. Mulder's encounter was with a spotlight and a fog machine. But Fabio's was on a roller coaster that got a little too close to a passing Canadian goose.
Fabio was the honorary first rider opening up a new amusement park attraction in Virginia. Unfortunately, his ride was soon over.
I got like a 20-pound goose right in my face.
And that's what you call a close encounter of the bird kind. Good news, though, it didn't stop him from making more commercials. They just kind of had to work it into the script.
Something to rekindle the passion.
My darling. I can't believe it's not butter.
Here's another UFO story that might have been foul play. Did you like that transition? Buttery smooth. Except...
it's not butter.
Okay. In 1950, a farmer named Paul Trent saw a mysterious shiny object hovering in the sky. He ran for his camera and snapped 2 pictures that would become among the most famous and widely regarded as authentic UFO photographs of all time. It rocketed him and his town of McMinnville, Oregon to international fame and spawned an annual McMinnville UFO festival, which is still going on today. You can go to the festival yourself to see a parade of flying saucers and stormtroopers and Hell's aliens and whatever the hell that is. It's a great place to bring your dog, too, if you hate your dog and want to embarrass him in front of his friends. Now, in general, having your own festival automatically makes you legitimate. And the festival website shows them on the cover of Time magazine, which makes them look super legitimate. Except... and this is weird, when I went to the Time magazine archives and looked up that issue, this was the real cover. Huh, a fake image with a UFO inserted into it. I wonder what that could mean. You know, maybe we should investigate the original photos. Now, what can we deduce about this photograph? Hey, that's mine! I'm the deducificator! Are you kidding? Your deductions are terrible. Arthur Conan Doyle didn't understand real detective work when he wrote your character, so he just made you good at guessing. You're Sherlock Holmes, not Sherlock. Okay. Let's investigate this one together. Really? You mean it? Sure, yeah. Well, excellent. I'll begin. No, it's this way. Tally-ho! Right, now, as you can see, this shows a large floating disc far off in the sky. We know it's far away because it's so small, you see, and we know that the larger a thing is, the closer it is. This nearby shed is much closer than these far-off trees. It's elementary, really. Except, I was getting to that! Except, what if you photograph a small object up close to look like a large object far away? Artists call that trick forced perspective, and it's jolly good fun. Alas, with a single photograph, there's simply no way to tell the difference. Except... Oh, what is it? Trent didn't take one photograph. He took two, each from a slightly different angle. Eureka! That gives us a stereoscopic image. Put on your 3D spectacles. Guessing the size of an object is only one way our brains judge distance. As mammals evolved with depth perception, we have two eyes facing the same image in front of us, each from a slightly different angle. The shift between those two angles is called parallax, and without a conscious thought, our brains calculate that shift to tell us exactly how close something is. The bigger the shift, the closer the object, and it can't be fooled by forced perspective. Yes, and your brain performs some phenomenally rapid trigonometry on the change in parallax of fast-moving objects to judge precisely when they're about to hit you in the face. I can't believe it's not a UFO. So let's compare the landmarks in both photos. We've got a shed, telephone pole, distant house, power lines, and of course our saucer. Bringing the shed into focus makes distant objects like the pole and the house shift off to the right. But the saucer shifts the other way, like nearby objects. Now it could just be flying like that, but let's see what happens when we line up the closest object in the photo, these overhead power lines. Well, guess what else lines up exactly with them? What a coincidence that this supposedly giant spaceship that no one else in town heard or saw just happens to be in the exact same spot in both photos, almost as if it were really a small piece of metal hung by fishing line from this wire, wobbling in the wind. Eureka! Mystery solved all by myself. You see, Watson... Watts? Whatever. If you wish to understand how a trick was done, you must consider the resources a person has available. This farmer Trent had no photo studio, but he did have plenty of fishing line, spare metal parts such as this side view mirror from his old truck, and a cheap fixed focus camera that would make nearby and faraway objects all appear to be in focus. And that concludes our mysteries for today. Except what? Oh, bloody hell, I already solved that one. Really? Yes, it was in fact real fairies. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a seance to prepare for. Well, I guess we'll let that one remain a mystery. For about 10 more seconds. Oh, fine. What did I miss if you're so blooming smart? Well, what resources did the girls have available? Well, I don't know. They were children. They had children's toys and games and books and whatnot. Precisely. What? Come here, I'll show you. All right. We know that early cameras required very long exposures, so you had to hold perfectly still while taking the picture. Anything that moved would be blurry, which is why people in old photos look so stiff. They were holding perfectly still for an uncomfortably long time.
Only 3 more minutes, dear. Keep clenching.
If you move one muscle, lassie, I'll give you a nice knuckle sandwich.
I would like a new mummy and daddy.
So, what part of this photograph is blurry? Well, the waterfall, of course, because as you can see, the water is moving. And what else should be moving? Well, naturally, the fairies who are dancing and waving their arms and flapping their wings and, oh bugger, holding perfectly still. Almost like they were paper cutouts traced from a book. Say, this exact book. Perhaps this exact page. Unlike Farmer Trent, who changed his story about the sighting several times but never admitted it wasn't a spaceship, these girls, after many years, finally did fess up. They had traced the pictures from their favorite book, drawn some wings, cut them out, and pinned them to the trees. It was a fun game and mostly harmless prank. But you know, kids aren't the only ones who play pranks, 'cause little children, grow up into big children, also sometimes called adults, and they do some pretty wacky shit too. Remember that time a couple British guys got drunk and went and stomped a bunch of circles in a field, and the media had a literal field day with it, and it started this huge craze and nutty theories and hundreds of copycats, and gadzooks, I believe that must be the work of flying space people, and I shall prove it! Well, people believe what they want to believe. And you know, that just might be the... Oh, yeah, it is. Okay, so, when you want to believe something badly enough, you tend to ignore other explanations, even if they make more sense. Arthur Conan Doyle already had spiritual beliefs in the supernatural before he even saw these photos, so he wanted them to be real. Other people see blurry shapes in the sky and believe what they want to believe. It's like how a Rorschach test works. What we see in it says more about us and our biases than it says about what's actually there. Although, that one is pretty obviously a 10-year-old dressed up as Tinkerbell for Halloween, because he just really wanted to be Tinkerbell. But instead of the other kids saying, "Cool costume, Coleman," they all laughed at him, and threw candy corn at him, and then dunked his head in the bobbing for apples bucket, and ruined his makeup! See? That's what that picture looks like. So, remember, don't let what you want to believe cloud your judgment of reality. Gather facts and pay extra attention to evidence that does not support your biases. And until next time, stay sane. I can't believe you not subscribe! Subscribe to channel! Whoa!